Hi, I'm Amy.
And I'm Kirsty.
And this is our podcast covering the highs, lows and realities of parenting a child with neurodiversity.
Each week we'll be sharing updates from our lives and hearing from a variety of guests about their advice and experiences.
This is Love Needs No Words. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Love Needs No Words. Today we're joined by Charlotte, or Twins, Tides and Autism Vibes on Instagram. Charlotte is mum to Jude and Tommy, who are social media stars in their own right. So many of us have been following their story and have learnt so much along the way. Charlotte is also mum to twin girls, and when she's not being a mummy, she's also a big part of SAA Clothing, Shop Autism Awareness Clothing. Thank you so much for joining us, Charlotte.
Thanks for having me.
Lovely to have you here. So for those who don't know about Jude and Tommy, the real stars of the show, and also sort of the reason that you've been able to raise so much awareness of autism and neurodiversity, can you tell us a little bit about them?
Yeah, so Jude is 17, Tommy is 14. They are both nonverbal and they are diagnosed autistic, ADHD, alongside Jude, who was diagnosed with global development delay. We've never had a relabel for that. And Tommy also has Tourette's. And yeah, life has been pretty busy and electric ever since they came along. So, and like you said, I think Jude and Tommy, James has worked so tirelessly over the last 10 years, telling their story, advocating that everybody kind of knows them already, and not just knows them, has grown up with them and watched their story kind of unfold. And it's one of pure heartbreak, one of joy, one of turbulence, and one really that is still unfolding every day for us. But it's been a real journey, that's for sure.
You speak so articulately though, and I'm always absolutely in awe of the way that you manage to say the things on your social media that I'm thinking, but I just don't have the ability. I don't know why, I just can't find the words, but you seem to be able to absolutely sum it up, and I think that's exactly what I would say if somebody asked me, but for whatever reason I can't do it. Maybe that's a time thing as well, and just being able to reflect on it.
I think that's it, Kirsty. Like I've come so late out of the gate. You know, for years I was this hidden entity that people were like, oh, I wonder what the mum's like, you know, or well, where is the mum? You know, I've seen messages like in old posts saying, well, doesn't the mum do anything? Doesn't she? Yeah, and it is a real team effort of parenting.
Yeah.
Our co-parenting, like I've sort of, you know, advocated for years, is one of the most success stories of it all. And how we've had to make heartbreaking decisions to separate our children, and how we have still, you know, always come back to a unified, you know, group of family that just want to be together, but we're having to do it at a very, very slow pace. And yeah, I mean, I look back now and think, if I was to read our story and it not be mine, I'd think, what? You know, like, how is that possible? I could never do that. How could I separate my children? How could I? But when you live and breathe what those moments look like, and as much as those choices are hard, they are the only choice in the end for us to survive, for our children to be able to grow, and become the people that they need to become. Because in an environment that is so, you know, overwhelming, there was just no progression, and we were standing still for so long. And we knew that the only way to break that cycle was by making such big decisions. And that decision was to separate Jude and Tommy and co-parent day by day, swapping over. And that's exhausting.
Yeah, I bet. At what age did the boys end up living with you or James? Sorry.
So Tommy was 3 and Jude was 6. Actually, no, Tommy was 4. And Jude was 7. It seems so long ago now. So we're going on to around the 9-year mark of them of not kind of being together. Yeah. And it's worked. It's been hard, but it's made the differences that we so desperately used to lay in bed and go, please let tomorrow just be a happy day. Please don't let Jude hit himself anymore. Please don't let Jude, have a meltdown. Please let, all of those things that, you guys probably know when you don't get much sleep as a Sen mum. That's when in those kind of witching hours, of two.
You spiral, don't you? Yeah.
Do and that's where you wish life was so different, or why is this me, or why can't Jude just be happy? And it's in those moments that now I lay in bed and think, God, all those things that we wanted, they've happened. They have happened through the choices that we've made. And I'm now, when people say happiness is a choice, it really is. And I think this has been this kind of testament to that, to realize, God, you are in charge of your own happiness. And it just takes a long time to kind of make those decisions, but they've been, groundbreaking for us.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's not something that you make a snap decision over, is it? It takes time to process and get to that point where you go, okay, actually, we're going to change up everything that we know, everything that we've kind of worked towards up to now. We're just going to throw that up in the air and do something different.
Yeah, and I think when you're living in such a different way anyway, we were kind of like sectioned our house off, into like a kind of flats. Upstairs was Jude's, downstairs was Tommy's, and we were kind of living like that. But living like that together is actually, it felt more sad than once we separated it and said, okay, now we can breathe in a space and live normally and not be stuck in a bedroom or stuck in a lounge. Now, the house is more free and each room is accessible because there's not, that trauma of walking into the kitchen and, oh my God, Tommy's in there, run, and I think, it's a bit like they say, there's nothing more lonely than living with someone who makes you feel lonely. It's actually better and healthier to be alone. And I think for us, turning that table of, look, we were living like that, but just under the same roof, and then just saying, okay, now's the time, made that just open up and understand it a lot more.
And it's so wonderful that you've both been able to tell your story in your own way, and for people watching that are in a similar situation, it just makes you feel so much less alone. Whether it's to do with separation or it's having children with really high needs and feeling very alone on that journey as well. What were the early years like? You touched on it slightly, sort of compared to now. I mean, James touched on it in his interview where he said there's things that they are doing that we didn't think would be possible, and there's things that obviously milestones they haven't reached.
Yeah, I think Jude is a different entity to Tommy, where Jude's global development delay really does hold him back from progressing in the, I guess, general milestones. And I mean, autism makes it harder to reach those milestones, but with the right work and the right input and the right therapies, you can achieve that. But global development delay works very differently from that, because it is a learning difficulty. And Jude can't mark make, and he probably never will mark make, because there's just the wires in his brain that are not connecting to make him do that. So I think when Jude was younger, everything feels a little bit more sad for you, because it's you that are going to the baby groups, watching everybody else say, oh, look what little Jake's doing now, and this is amazing, and it's you that sits there and goes, oh, but my baby Jude's not doing that. And I think the early years felt very much, it was my torment, my sadness, and my, why can't I just have what everybody else has?
Yeah.
As I've got older and Jude has got older, that really changes into something quite different. And it's now I get angry that Jude isn't doing driving lessons now, not for me, for him, because he deserves that, and I would want that for him. And a lot of people say, yeah, but that's what you're sad about, and it is what I'm sad about, because of course it's a natural progression on his 17th birthday that he opens a card, and then there is that 20 driving lessons, and he's like, whoa, I'm out of this town soon. But I think I'm sad for Jude, because he those choices are taken away from him because of the way that he was born, and he was born into a body that only allows him to do what he can do, and the global development delay robs a lot of that progression. And that's what I kind of struggle with now. If the global development delay wasn't there, what would his autism look like?
Yeah.
Where Tommy is very, very different, as you've probably seen, where he hasn't got global development delay, so he can read and type and do all these, use an AAC really successfully, and access the community in a beautiful way. And I never get sad about Tommy's days, because I look at it and think, I want to live Tommy's days. Like, this guy is living his best life. Okay. And for Jude, that isn't the case. And I get so angry that the global development delay has robbed that from him.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the difference. Like, we talk a lot about the autism and what it's like being parents of two children in the same community. And of course, that's what we're here for. We're here to advocate it. But with that comes so many other tag-ons, isn't it? It's very rare now that you just meet more on the severe end of the spectrum, that it's just autism.
Yes.
They have autism and ADHD, like both of the boys have ADHD, and ADHD can be as debilitating, if not more debilitating, than the autism.
Yes.
And and then again, the global development delay or the Tourette's, or so I think it's just so many little tags onto the autism. I think you can live a really beautiful, successful life with autism.
Yeah.
And Tommy proves that every single day. And Jude has beautiful days, and he's living in his world that he loves, but it does stop him accessing the world in the way that I would like him to, and in a way that I just want to go on a family holiday, but I can't do that because Jude could not deal with an aeroplane. That would be way too much for sensory overload. Jude is still in pads. How am I supposed to change a 17-year-old in an aeroplane toilet? So lots of things we miss out now as they get older. But when he was 4 or 5, I could just scoop him up and save him, or change his nappy in the back of the boot still. And as they get older, those things stop. And I can't afford a jet plane, so we don't get to go on holiday.
You put that so articulately, Charlotte. Thank you for that, because it really sort of summed up your emotions and many people's emotions that would be in a similar situation to you. But talking of holidays, so this year Tommy went on holiday with you, didn't he? What was that like?
Yeah, well, we've been going back to the same place now for we get like harbour rot. If it works, we're like, we're going back.
Oh yeah,
I think we all feel like that. Same park.
Yeah, and actually, it's not probably the preferred villa I'd stay in, or but
it works.
And you guys, you get it, right? Have
Yeah,
them see us. It's how it works. But we started off taking Tommy to Lanzarote in October 2017.
Oh, okay.
And it worked, and it was great, and he was a dream, and it was amazing to see him in a completely different environment. And he ate better than he'd ever eaten before, and he was swimming all day. I would never stay in a hotel. I'm not that brave. We definitely book a villa. Because I think, I wanted to set it up that it was also a holiday for me.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
That just wouldn't work with Tommy, the way he splashes people, the way he likes to swim naked. Hotels are probably not ready for that. Picking up buffet foods and thinking no thanks and throwing it back. So a villa was like, okay, perfect. And it was just worked so well. And then we've gone back year after year after year, and he understands it, he loves it, and it's just another way that we can be together as a family in an environment that is warm. There's alcohol, and it just gives me, I don't know how to say it without sort of, it just makes me feel a little bit normal that way.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. I think Kirsty would agree with
Yeah,
like the
100%.
holidays we've had recently. We've said the same, where you're not thinking about the forms, you're not thinking about meetings, you're not thinking about anything other than you're just with your family, and he can do what he wants, behave how he wants, and nobody's judging because you're in your own little family bubble, and it's so nice.
And it does give you that just a taste of norm,
Yeah.
because
Yeah, it's what other families do. It's the
Yeah.
ordinary, isn't it, that you go away in the summer holidays, and it's like, I think it's really justified to think, actually I want that too. I want that for my family and my children, and yeah, it might look a little bit different, but if you can make it work, which you've found a way to make it work with Tommy, you grab that with both hands and you run with it, and you do it.
And it's just giving him life experience. It's giving him, he understands what holiday means. He understands. I mean, he thinks now holidays, I couldn't probably take him to Germany. He'd go, this is not a holiday.
This is not warm.
No, he wants, the beach and the
routine
pool
of it all.
and all of these things. But for him, he gets it. And I think he knows that we go to a restaurant and we sit down in a restaurant and we're going to be there for a minimum of 2 hours, and we're going to eat, and you're going to get your ice cream afterwards, and we take all the things that he loves, so his iPad and colouring pens, crosswords, and I set it up to not fail. But it just for that week it gives us just a chance to breathe and not, like you said, have that constant reminder that our life is heavy.
What's he like on the plane as well, Charlotte? Has he got used to that?
Yeah, he's great. Tommy's a sensory seeker. So you take him to the fun fair, he wants to go on the cage. He's at Adventure Island almost every week, which is like this kind of permanent fair in where we live. And so he loves that. He loves the kind of all of the noises and the takeoff. But his ears do pop a bit, so that got some time to kind of get used to and make him understand. But I think he gets it and he enjoys it. Where I think the difference is Jude would not. That would be an unpredictable sensory overload.
Yeah.
And if there's a baby sitting behind us crying, then there's no other way to say it. We're fucked.
Yeah.
So
100%.
And that is the difference where, Tommy understands a baby cries and he may not like it, but he understands it and can manage it. Where Jude is like, what is this tiny human with no hair standing there screaming at me?
Why are they screaming at me? And
I probably turned his world upside down by just popping 2 bald tiny humans out at the same time and bringing them home.
Yeah, I mean, you don't do something by half, Charlotte, and then have twins.
I know. So again, that was another unpredictable, difficult time for us.
Yeah, I bet.
I just separated my 2 children, which was heartbreaking, and then I'm like, well, you know what? I'm just throwing more.
Yeah.
A little bit of craziness, but again, like anything, and every person that I connect with, that I end up becoming friends with on here, and I've made some amazing friends. We all just work it out, right? Yes. We go, look, this is shit. So what are we going to do to change it? And if we can't change it, we live in it, but we live in it a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more less heavy than we did the day before. And I think that's it for me. It's the people. I'm a massive people person. I need my friends. I need that. They're my support. So I've always shared quite openly my life, my thoughts, and people are like, you make it look so easy, or you make it look so, because I joke and I'd be like, oh yeah, it's just another poo on the floor that I'm stepping over, isn't there? But the truth is, I use humour to get through it. That is my personal remedy. It's what makes me think, okay, if I can't laugh through this, then I'm going to cry through it, and I don't want to cry.
And I totally empathise with that completely. Exactly the same. And actually, sometimes I'm talking about it, and I think, look, these are things I'm explaining that could make you cry. They really could, but I'm not. Why am I not? And I don't think I've actually worked that out quite, but I think like you, I try and take a positive outlook to it as much as I possibly can. And then in those really crap moments, as Amy will know last week, you find the people that will pick you up out of them and go, you know what, actually, yeah, that's a bit rubbish, but dust yourself off because you've got to keep going.
And you do, and you're not given choices.
Yeah.
Look, today we're going to give you a day off, and it's not like that. Like last night I was exhausted. I knew I had to go to London to fight for Ordinary today, which has been a big deal for us. And I knew that Jude wasn't going to go to sleep till 3 or 4 in the morning. And I'm like, God, please just go a little bit earlier tonight. And he'll be like, yeah, I got to 2. And then he decided to, go to the toilet. And that with Jude, it means now getting him in the shower, washing him down, changing the bed sheets. And I'm like, oh, I don't have this in me today. But you dig deep, and then the next morning, I don't even remember feeling that way now. I think I've got really good at feeling really pissed off, really angry, really fucking fuck, in the moment.
Yeah.
And then it's gone.
Yes.
And I think I love that I've been able to do that now. Yes, be angry, of course. You don't want to be cleaning poo up at 1 o'clock in the morning, or I don't want, if Jude's having a bad day, it's horrible. But I think in the early years, those days swallow you up and they turn into a week, and then the week turns into a month, and that's where it becomes unhealthy for you, and actually no growth happens in that for anyone. So
I've got a couple of questions about the twins, because I've been very honest on the podcast that before I had my second, I was anxious about whether or not she would have additional needs and whether it was the right thing to do. Best thing I ever did, which I'm sure you'd agree. Were those feelings there, and did you have those conversations with your partner?
I think they're always there. Jude was diagnosed before I got pregnant with Tommy, so I knew, when Tommy came along, that was a possibility. But you also think, oh, well, it can't happen twice. Like, come on, and him being a boy, you're always told, well, it's much more common in boys, so that made it even more anxious. But I think very early on, I knew that Tommy was that way, but I don't think I ever felt angry about that. I think I kind of thought, maybe this is just what keeps happening. But then when the girls came along, it was very different, because I thought, okay, I've already got 2 that I'm having to separate. I don't know if I've got another send kid in me. Like, they are exhausting, and I just didn't know if I could spread myself that thin, because I didn't also want to become weaker for Jude and weaker for Tommy, and I don't want to keep diluting myself. I want them to have, the full flavour as much as they can. So I obviously didn't know I was having twins. This was not planned. So, having one child was kind of scary, but I always thought, you know what, I've got one more in me. I can do this. And I think, like you said, I've always had the mindset, I might regret not doing it, but I'll never regret doing it.
Yes.
So then when I found out it was twins, I shit myself for a few months.
I bet.
And then I kept on, when can I have a gender reveal? When can I have a gender reveal? Because I was like, I don't have 4 boys in me.
That's a lot.
And then it was 2 girls, and that took the pressure off weirdly. Even though that statistic's probably not true, I felt like, well, there's less chance.
Psychologically, it felt,
Or even if they are autistic, they might not just be as autistic. I'm dealing with the creme de la creme of autism here. I think, was I meant to have 2 girls that probably are a little bit more empathetic to kind of wanting to nurture someone, and will they become me? And when I'm not able to one day, I think taking the pressure off one child made it feel a lot easier for me, because I always felt, God, I know it's weird, but have you ever seen Love Actually?
Yes, I love that film.
And the way she keeps her brother, she's his carer, and that's the constant calls, and she's got a chance to have you know, a great night with sexy Carl from The Office, but the
And they're
brother's
calling.
phone
Yeah.
messes it all up. And I kept thinking about that when I was pregnant in my head, going, I don't want my child to become her. And I think as soon as I knew there was two, I was like, okay, they've got each other,
Yeah.
you know. And they'd be like, Lo, you go tonight, Fran, or you go tonight, Seren. And
Yeah.
that made it just feel like, okay, they're not going to do that journey alone. And I would never expect them to become carers, but I will expect them to make the right choices for Jude and Tommy, whatever the future looks like. And I think that would be quite heavy on one of them.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a really valid point. It's a really valid point. How were Tommy and Jude when the girls actually first came along? Because when I actually didn't know Max had autism until after his sister had arrived.
But at least you got to enjoy it more then, right?
Well, I'm not sure. I don't know. Yeah, no, I don't know about that. Like, it was tough going, like, because Max is a very energetic child. So I remember distinctly being extremely heavily pregnant and him just running, and literally nothing I could do. He was too big to be in reins, and he was either going to run into a supermarket or a car park. And I remember thinking, I'm just praying that he's going into the supermarket, and thankfully he did. But yeah, he's always been a very high energy child with a complete disregard for any kind of rules or anything. Absolutely. Yeah. But when my daughter came along, my literal job for the first probably 6 months was just to keep her alive away from him, because he was absolutely furious that his world had been turned upside down and she was there. Yeah, she'd be in a Moses basket and he'd be trying to push it over or trying to lie on top of her.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And it wasn't,
that's horrible.
Yeah,
because
he was too young.
Your new baby.
No, it was very difficult. She was literally worn all the time, because it was probably the best place for her to be. And it's got better as time's gone on, and slowly, a bit like what you were saying earlier, it just takes time. We've got there. But how did Jude and Tommy kind of take to it when they were first?
So Jude was like, what is that? I don't know if you've seen my recent post where I took him to a rave and he kept sidestepping away from
Yeah,
me.
that was so
I did.
funny.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what he did with them for the first like 6 months. He was like, if he sees a dog, he does that, and he was kind of doing it with them, like, oh my god,
what is that? Yeah,
and I do the occasional, oh look, Jude, hold, and I'd put them there for 5 seconds, take a quick picture, and then snatch them back, because Jude would just probably go, a bump on the head or a so. And he didn't want to be around them, so I didn't force it. And he knew they were there, but he also knew that he didn't have to be there if he didn't want to, and that worked. And Tommy was just okay from the get-go. He just thought, what are these rats that are around me all the time? And he's just consistently moved like that. So different personalities, and it's weird because Jude is the much more passive character. And you'd think he'd be much more kind of, gentle, kind, but he's like, yeah, I'm passive, but this is not my vibe. And Tommy is much more, boisterous and cheeky, but he was just fine, which kind of made, I got to enjoy that, which was lovely. And I was still doing the protective mode from Jude, keeping them away, but because I think I had the Tommy bit in between, I was like, okay, we're just doing this at different paces for different. And even now, Jude is small. It's very small. But Jude is small with everyone,
Yeah.
So I think you just don't learn to not take it personally now, And I think I tell that to the girls. They're like, Mummy, why did Jude never want to be around us? And I've just really explained to them that this is not a you thing. This isn't about you. This is a Jude thing. And, it's nothing that you're doing, or it's not anything about you. This is, about Jude. And they get that, and they kind of now understand that, if Jude's in around them, that they can't, sing K-pop Demon Bloody Hunters.
Whoop, whoop.
And if Tommy's there, they do what they like. So
how old were they when you could start to explain it a little bit more?
I think we got to probably about 4 or 5 before I always kind of made them understand that we have to use our little voices, and as so much as you can with a 3 and a 4-year-old. but it was always very sort of taught that, you know, if Jude's here, we use a little voice, or, and I think so they understood that their behaviours had to change around them. But it got to around sort of 5, once they were kind of midway through reception, where I sat down and, you know, bought books and explained, look, this is what it means to be autistic, and these are also are the this is who Jude is, you know, rather than just sort of saying, because they were like, oh yeah, but little Freddie in our class has got autism, and you know, he sits on the carpet with us and he's fine. But you know, and I think because they've seen such parallel ends of
Yes.
autism. Well, I've got two severe autistic brothers, but one loves loud noises and adventure, and one hates loud noises and he likes his world to be really small. They really understand already that actually, forget autism, it's just about the person and how bloody different we all are.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I think it does help you to become such empathetic people. I'm sure Kirsty's had the same, but a few times I've had the nursery teacher saying to me, oh, she'll do something, and we knew straight away that she had somebody in her family with additional needs by the way she carries herself and the kindness and things. And I think without realizing, they have this empathy within them that maybe other children their age don't have because of what they've grown up with. I was saying last week that sometimes I hear Isabel sitting with Alex and she'll say, do you want to go up or down with the remote? And already she's learning how to speak to him. And you
and I
think
think
it's amazing.
yeah, it's so powerful, and it's so, like, the girls know that they can communicate with Jude and Tommy without words, you know,
Yeah.
and they use the techniques I use. I use a lot of hand techniques with Tommy, with choices, and it's something we've always done, which is actually a really beautiful way because they can adopt it really easily too. So they'll be like,
Yeah.
Tommy, you know, would you like Mickey Mouse or K-pop Demon Hunters?
Oh, that's so
And you know, like,
nice.
Tommy taps his choices, and they really get to interact and communicate that way with him. And I don't think they even now, just I think their brothers talking would seem really alien to them actually.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, for
yeah.
them they're just like, oh, they don't, and they seem to communicate all really, really well without words.
Oh, it's
It's like
lovely.
it's that human connection again, isn't it? And I said to someone else the other day, I think we're so becoming so like climatized to just phones and connecting through messages or looking at videos that we forgot how to be with each other in person. And actually, the least type of communication you do with people is verbally. It's done through kind of expression or
Yeah.
manner or touch, and they do all of that with their brothers, which is they've got their kind of little language going, and they know when they need to step away, and so
Yeah.
they know when it's okay to go in for a cuddle, and they've just, you learn it, it's human behavior really quickly, right?
Yeah.
And it's all they've ever known as well, because they're youngest siblings. So that's just life for them. Like, my daughter doesn't know any different. She
Yeah.
doesn't know any other siblings. So for her, this is just normal. This is just her normal. Yeah.
I mean, that's it. Like, Seren, one of my twins, comes down the stairs and said, oh mummy, you know, Tommy's a bit stressy. And I'm like, okay, well, why is he stressing? And she's like, you know, well, I've just gone in the room and he's just like gone, mm, mm. And you know, he won't let me in the bedroom. But you know, typical teenage. If you,
I was going to say, it's a teenager.
You in there?
It's like, go away. I don't want my little sister in my room.
yeah, and she's learning already that, you know, what stressy means, and what get out of my room looks like.
Yeah.
You know, without him saying, God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, he
No.
is saying it, but in his own way.
Yes, yeah. He is.
Yeah.
The teenage thing I was going to ask you about, actually, because that's obviously a whole different thing to navigate. You kind of alluded to it earlier, and I'm actually really aware of this because Max is still of an age where, worst case scenario, I can kind of still pick him up and remove him from a situation, albeit with a lot of noise, and he's not very happy about it. But obviously they become teenagers and you can't do that anymore, but they're also kind of going through their own journey of wanting a bit more independence, and it might not look like, you know, the typical journey, but they're still going through that. What's that been like?
Oh, girls.
Okay,
Great.
here we go. Brace ourselves.
Strap in,
You might
everyone.
want to cut me here. No, it's been
Hard.
Wild.
It's really, really tough. I think Tommy's going through it now, and it's manageable, and it's actually okay. He's definitely more stroppy and more private. He's getting those, very neurotypical kind of behaviours of wanting more space, and suddenly, things are a little bit changing. And where Jude, because of his global development delay, and again, he doesn't understand what's happening to his body, and he's like, what is this? And he doesn't understand it. And then when he doesn't understand something, he becomes agitated or frightened or scared. And then I'm having to deal with the impacts of, who can help us here, because, we went through a real crisis last summer with Jude, where, I was sending emails to my CAMS team and to my social workers saying, we are a family in crisis and you need to help us, because he just couldn't deal with what the changes were happening. And that wasn't just puberty, so that's not fair to scare everybody. That was because they decided to take him off a drug that repressed his puberty for many years, and then they decided to take him off of it, and suddenly he went into full-blown puberty where Jude hadn't gone through puberty at 11, 12, 13, 14. Suddenly he got to 15, came off these drugs, and his body just went bang. And it was fierce for him, for us. And, there was just parts of it where I thought, I don't know if I can do that, get through this, and I felt like I lost Jude. I felt like I'd lost the boy that I know he is. He's a beautiful soul. He's so passive. I've been he can light up a room with his eyes and his smile, and everybody has always just gone, oh my God, I love him. And that a mist came over his eyes, the passiveness when he was not there anymore. And we struggled, with that, because it's, like a light had gone out. And what it's like trying to get support. No one was even telling us where to go and buy a light bulb to like help us put it on. And I'm like, we need some help. I'm not willing to let this go, so far down the road that his mental health has deteriorated into the bin, and so has ours. So, but like anything, if you keep knocking and you fight hard enough, you will get that help, you will get the support. And we got through it. And again, I think, like I was saying earlier, a bit like, they say that your body makes you forget what childbirth really is like, or you would keep doing it.
Yeah.
And I think it was like that. The trauma was so bad from that summer that it kind of, I forgot it enough. I remember it being so bad, but I forgot it enough to go, oh, okay, well.
Yeah.
We got through it.
It doesn't feel raw. The feelings don't feel raw anymore.
It doesn't feel raw. And I think that's the downside with medication is, if your child is chemically unbalanced, you need medication to support that. But the downside is if you've got to take a drug that's going to then physically start affecting your health, and you need to then come off of it, they need to support that more, and what that looks like, because no one tells you when you give this child a drug what happens later down the line.
Yeah. And did they even warn you that was going to be the impact when he came off of it? Obviously nothing can quite prepare you, I don't think.
As I said, oh no, we go to, and he was on risperidone. So risperidone is basically the end of the line drug, right? It's an antipsychotic, it's the strongest one, and he was put on that from such a young age because he was under the Molesley, which is one of I think one of the world's best mental health hospitals. And they said, look, this is the drug he needs to be able to for you all to survive at the moment. And we were at that stage, he was only 6, where we're like, okay, if that works. And we went on to 9 years on a drug that became our norm. And then suddenly to go, if a doctor says to you, well, actually it starts affecting liver function and these things, as a parent, you have to say, okay, it's now time to come off of it.
Yeah.
But I think they don't tell you what that coming off of it really looks like, you know.
Wow.
And it was, yeah,
That's scary.
it was really scary, it was really awful. And I think, you know, it's a whole different advocation to do drugs and talk about, listen, you know, I'm a big believer of skills before pills, you know, do those, all the things you can before, but there's also a big chance that you just need medication at times, you know. And even I've got friends, you know, who take antidepressants and have become new lease of life, or HRT and all these things. You know, drugs do help. They do make your life livable again, and that's what risperidone gave us. But coming off of it,
Brutal.
it ripped it all apart in 1 second, and no one said, this is what we can do to help you manage it, you know.
Terrible.
And actually that would just take the edge off of it feeling so hard if actually there was a recognition there to say, this is going to be a wild ride, it's going to be tough, but these are the things that we're going to put in place to support you, rather than it literally falling to shit and then you having to go, help, like, I'm literally drowning here, help.
And not
when
just
you're
that,
on your knees.
What I would advocate, and what I think I'm going to try and advocate most for now, is I think the support systems in place for parents, you know, as you know, when our children are diagnosed, I think we should be given therapy as couples, as individuals, to prepare you for life ahead, and what grief looks like, what loss looks like, but also what, you know, seeing your child in psychotic episodes looks like, seeing what your child looks like in a meltdown. No one gives you those training.
No.
And I think if you were given the tools and the understanding of what life could look like and how you can manage that, then it gives us education is power, right? We know that. And it's strange, like I sit there today, like we're fighting for the ordinary, because we're fighting for an education that our children need, deserve to feel safe in, and to be seen. But we as parents need an education that they're not giving us. And some parents are failing massively. You know, single parents that are trying to do this job alone, who live in 1-bedroom flats in London, who don't even have a garden. You know, no one's educating parents how to be mentally strong enough to do the journey that we all do. And it is serious, you know, it's a massive thing that we have to do on a day-to-day basis that no one prepares you for. And, you know, with death, or with, you know, pain that we go through in any other section of our life, it is a quick impact, and then we get to disperse it slowly. With ours, it's day after day after day, with sleep deprivation, with no guidebook of what tomorrow's going to look like, or what next year's going to look like. I think now more than anything, after going through what we went through with Jude in the latter part, it made me understand more that they're not educating us more, they're not helping us more. Are they scared to tell us what the future might look like, and we're not ready to deal with it? But, you know, I need to understand it. I don't want my first understanding to be when my child's attacking me, and he hasn't done that in 7 years, and he's now also 15.
You can see how quickly family life can just completely crumble underneath you. And there's no reason there.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, the divorce rate for the SEN community is as high as it is in, like, death of a child, which, you know, everybody knows that it becomes so alien for a couple to unite in such a high, like, it's so, like, volatile. How can you connect in those moments when you're saying, oh, don't do this, or don't do that, or, you know,
and there's no time to connect as well.
And it's very easy to find love in the joy.
Yes.
But what we need to be taught is, how do we love each other in the depths of the darkness? Like, that's what I want to know. Like, how can I support my husband more? How can I support my friend more? And I think, you know, when Jude was diagnosed, we were just given a leaflet and said, thank you very much. And we left and walked out the door. I think there should be departments that they fill the paperwork out for us, that we could just talk to them on the phone and say, this is my child, and they say da 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 da, and do it for you. Like, it's not fair that we have to write a form and relive our fucking shit days over and
Time after time after time. Yeah.
and after time. Like, going into PIP, which you'll have to do when your child's hit 15 and you start filling out your PIP forms, and you're like, holy shit, I'm dragging up the past, and I'm realizing that I'm pretty much writing what I wrote 10 years ago.
Yes,
Thanks.
absolutely.
Look, we have an extreme autism life here. It's the extreme end of autism. And I live a bloody good life at the same time. I go on holidays. I've got a partner. I eat beautiful food. I see my friends. I love the days that I get to do beautiful things. I do it. Life doesn't stop because autism knocks at the door. It might at days put it on hold and things aren't possible all the time, but you still get to live a life. It's just going to be a bit different. I've learned now that actually it's okay to press pause and sit on the sofa, and I know that Jude or Tommy are fine in another room now. The house is set up for them anyway. Nothing's going to happen. If I want to sit down for half an hour on the sofa, I do it now. I don't feel like I've got to sit on the hallway and watch them in the bedroom and things. So life's got a lot easier like that. And then the moments when I've got respite, or James has got one, and my friends are great, and they've come to look after the other ones, and I've shipped the twins off somewhere else. We make it work, and we go and do the things that I love to do. Like, I love going to London. It's where I'm from. It makes me feel like centered again. And we go into concerts. I went to Oasis this year. I'm bloody lucky, right?
Oh, it's amazing.
You are.
Yeah. So I think, it's definitely, if I'm honest, some days when I know that I'm supposed to be going out, I'm not going to go. And I'm sitting there thinking how I'm going to cancel. What am I, this and that. But then when I go, and I realise, shit, we need to do this more.
Yeah, definitely. Charlotte, what advice do you have for parents at the start of their journey?
Oh, advice. I think the one thing I know that's made the biggest progression in our houses and our lives is if you are happy, if the children are happy, that is where the growth happens. Jude and Tommy have never been able to learn unless they are in a state of comfortability and happiness. And that starts with us. If I'm anxious, they're anxious.
Yeah.
If I'm scared, they're scared. And I think as long as you can kind of, build from some type of grounding, it doesn't have to look perfect, but if you're happy, then so much growth will happen.
Mm-hmm. Charlotte, thank you so much for coming on and joining us today, honestly. And thank you for your page as well, because you are helping so many people. We really appreciate it. So thank you.
Thanks guys. I've really loved talking to you. If we could do this once a week, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the therapy, right?
Yeah, exactly.